White Britain, that will be the Scottish, Welsh, Irish and English, will be extinct from the United Kingdom by 2125. And it has absolutely nothing to do with migrants. Stay tuned to the end and we will give you the full rundown of the data analysts from the 2023 census that we've had in and the prognosis from many of the specialists. As always, I'm John, or Sean, or Irish Muslim, or Yahya, depending on who the fuck is asking. This is Chris, he's a close friend of mine. This is our 4th podcast. Welcome back, it's always a pleasure. Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to start with, I think, the drug and alcohol problem here in the United Kingdom. Britain has a prolific drug and alcohol problem into the perm of about 740,000 men and about 400,000 women-ish. Remember, I'm only getting the public stats, I'm not getting what the data analysts know deep down in dives, that are alcohol and drug dependent in the UK, and that has a climb of a 0.2 to a 0.5 every year. That's the percentage of the population of that is becoming more dependent on alcohol and drugs. The government's doing nothing about it.
Does that really surprise you?
Yeah, no, £12.5 billion a year in tax. Alcohol tax. Yeah. 12.5 billion.
It's making money. And then obviously the corporations are making money because we're getting more dependent on it.
Absolutely fucking insane. Absolutely. And it is unquestionably one of Britain's biggest woes, but it's such a taboo subject to discuss alcohol dependency. And this isn't about your casual drinker. We're not talking about we're not trying to take away the wine from mum who's come home from work or dad going down the pub for a couple of games of darts and a couple of pints. We are talking about habituating alcoholics that are drinking from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night.
No, daily abuse.
Daily abuse.
Daily abuse. That's very unfortunate.
A million
people are going,
a million fucking Britons
are going that way to deal with whatever they're going through.
It's madness. And I mean, I do agree with the slight left, which is probably going to irk you. We do need more mental health systems. We do need to build an embedment of more mental health practitioners. But your point of view is you want to cure a lot of these problems, not aid and abet them like the people do with it.
Not wanting to come out of it more positive, not relying on the thing that they were trying to deal with. Yeah, there's a difference. There's no such thing as a cure. There's a way to rehabilitate and make sure they don't.
Sounds so modern, Chris.
And don't go back on that.
Rehabilitate. Where do these shop posh words come from?
Rehabilitate them back into society so they then become a functioning member of society, not when you see them, unfortunately, on the street curb, whatnot, completely shit-faced.
Yeah, and we're seeing more of that. We're seeing more of that both in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham. And
the thing that concerns me the most is the drug part, not necessarily the alcohol.
The alcohol can lead to other deaths.
Yeah, the alcohol can obviously lead to other things, but the fact of the drug thing, that means someone's either breaking a law or doing some sort of side hustle on the side which isn't safe or sound.
The drug problem is the lesser side of it.
Yeah.
We have a major alcohol problem. And the government say they're trying to tackle drug problems all the time, but the drugs are the minor issue here. They make up less, the notes I've got here, they make up less than 10% of the dependencies. Where you've got a million alcoholics, real alcoholics.
How would you solve that though? Obviously, apart from setting aside the necessary doctors and places to make sure that they're getting the help they need, but you can't just turn around and just give them help without some form of punishment.
The habituated alcoholics are there because of they fall through the cracks of society. Almost all alcoholic problems are based from desperately poor families.
I can understand that.
So yeah, of course, but to affect the societal issue, we need, and I know I hark on about it, you said it just earlier today, we need tax reform to put more money in more public pockets. If we take the burden of tax away from me and you and share some of that fucking burden on the corporations that aren't paying a near on a penny, it would make it easier for families to dig themselves out of debt.
It would make it easier.
And that's
but I also got to be a realist. I understand the fact that a tax reform is required, but the likelihood at the moment of it happening,
the more we talk about it,
yeah, obviously the more voice we give, the more likely it's going to be pressed. But at this precise moment in time being,
what we need to do is place additional taxable burdens on alcohol. It is too easy for teenagers to get hooch, to get hold of unflavoured snaps. It is incredibly fucking easy. I'm not on about ID. The ID system can be run round. You have people buying alcohol, people getting alcohol for teenagers, etc., etc. This stuff is easy. I'm talking about raising the price tag by incrementally increasing tax until it becomes only a luxury.
I thought they've already done that.
Nowhere near. Because the lobbying of the companies don't want the tax burden to raise. We need to. I'm not on about things like the bottles of wine or the beer that adults. I'm talking about the hooches. I'm talking about the actual the schnapps, the things that are flavoured like fruit.
The fruit, like spirit.
Yeah. The fruity drinks.
Yeah. The ones I like.
Unfortunately, but they should be taxed more because they're the ones that the teenagers drink heavily.
Unfortunately,
we need to drive a wedge, financial if you have to, between the young would-be drinkers and the industry. Like I said, I don't begrudge mum having a wine at night. I don't begrudge, because that's not where the alcoholics come from.
No.
It comes from the uneducated teenagers knocking back 5, 6, 7 fucking...
And become addicted to it and then relying on it.
Become relying on it. And that's where our society falls down, because the supermarkets and many of the fucking chains have made it really affordable. I mean, how much, if you were to Google on your phone, how much would it cost you to get yourself some of them snaps you like?
I like about 2-3 quid a can. And if you used to turn around and buy it in a multi-pack, you can usually get them for like 10 to 15 quid.
That's the problem. Multi-packs, mass savers. That's where our problem is. Alcohol should be treated like a luxury to be enjoyed at the end of an evening.
What about raising the age gap?
It isn't working.
No.
The age gap is not working because the kids have gotten smarter. They're building workarounds around it. The goal is to punish, realistically, the company should be the one to hold it. Because we know they'll pass it on to the employer. If you put a tax on all of the teenage drinks, what you will do is create a gap. And that gap will then allow the kids to choose whether or not they want alcohol. My goal is to break the chain between...
Alright, so not increase tax on all alcohol.
No, just on the ones specifically
that
that are towards... that are advertised towards kids.
Yeah.
That are directly advertised towards kids. And that is...
That's advertised towards kids. Bear in mind, I very rarely watch adverts.
Adverts on most televisions that lot come up of parties, you see parties that lot, and they don't advertise it directly, but it's subliminal. So you see the bottle of schnapps near the party, you see teenagers dancing, and of course they acquire by association. And because they acquire by association, they see the schnapps, therefore they visualise what it is. It's the same on social media. Social media does it as well, but they have these really short kind of adverts, and they're targeted towards people based upon their click bases, which are the click reparations of what you're doing. So if you're clicking on all these teenage thirst traps, I don't, and I'm pretty sure you don't, but if you do, then they start advertising teenage stuff to you, as I'm giving you an example.
Prime example, you research something you want to buy, then it pops up on social media.
Yeah, exactly, it pops on social media. So this is an example of targeted AI. And if we don't break a chain between pre-teens and teenagers seeing parties and party pop alcohol and that kind of imaging, we're going to have perpetual teenage alcoholics. And that's a terrifying fucking thing to have when we have our later thing we've got in our podcast talking about birth rate. The horrifying fucking factor that we've got. And I mean, I know I go home quite hard on alcohol and drugs, but it has a very personal effect on me. I mean, I don't like talking about my family at any real point, and you know this, but my sister, my father, my uncles, I come from a family of them. This is one of the reasons why I'm near on teetotal, not just because I'm Muslim, but alcohol destroys families. It can generationally, if you have, not alcohol itself, alcoholics who don't treat the disease for what it is create generational trauma based around alcohol. and we need to learn to break the gaps. Stop children from drinking. Stop teenagers from drinking. No one wants to raise these conversations because, as I said to you, it's a £12.8 billion a year fucking industry for the British taxman. The British taxman does not want any conversation, relatively speaking, involving the tax system, because it will damage his ability to have an income. Because where he's got to fill that 12.8 billion hole somewhere. Well, you fill it by actually properly streamlining your tax system. But having alcohol as a base tax system is an incentivisation for Parliament and government not to touch it. And that's how we have evil fucking advertising, completely disregarding the humanity that what happens when you have the alcohol.
So they should do, well, in similar stages, to deter the young ones from drinking, the ones that are targeted towards them, yeah, similar to what they did with the fags.
Again, I think that's a good approach, and so. But I think you should penalise the businesses specifically targeting teenagers.
There should be some standards.
There should be some legal standards to prevent, because if anything that you're advertising to a 17-year-old is going to appeal to a 15-year-old. That's why I think that advertising shouldn't be allowed for anything under the age of 18. We should not have an advertising.
They should apply, obviously, in the retail business, they do the challenge 25. Yeah, they should apply similar concept into adverts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If anything that's over 18, everyone must look over 25 within that advert.
Absolutely, and I think that's an important thing, because people don't talk about the advertising industry. They don't talk about it like it has some kind of a non-impact. It does. It's all subliminal. The messaging sent by television, it can be incredibly devastating, and how it affects society, people, and family. And people don't like holding conversations, and we need to speak more regularly about it. I think Britain doesn't do enough at taking care of its society. We regularly ignore it. We regularly ignore these problems because we don't come outside our individual units.
It's the uncomfortable conversation in order to solve it, which we avoid.
We avoid the conversations because Britain doesn't like talking about the flaws in our country, and we have lots of them. And everybody, you've just seen the lovely Trixie, as she has her head popped up. But the tax system is the root of much of Britain's problems, in my opinion. If you streamline it, if you reinforce the systems, if you punish advertisers for advertising for underage, and again, that comes with the makeup that I've said in our previous podcasts. It comes with push-up bras, and also it's so much advertising is aimed, admittedly, for the young adult, which are the 17, 18-year-olds, but they are sneaky enough with it that it also applies to the actual underage. And that's where we need to fucking stamp down on it. Because it is a fundamental problem in our society that we are sexualising and alcoholising and industrialising these disgusting industries around our children too much. And too few people are willing to fucking say something.
Because they're targeting the future.
Of course. They see it from a consumer point of view. I see it from a societal point of view. And I have a fucking problem with that.
That's where the regulations needs to be brought in.
But that's the regulations are a joke. The current regulations we have are a joke. Because they're allowed to advertise to, I think, 17, 18-year-olds, but the way that they market it is they can aim it down 2 years. So the 15-year-olds are also affected. And if the 14s and 13-year-olds are watching the 15-year-olds, advertising should be an adult.
Going the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I genuinely think that we need a rehaul of much of British society. We need to be unafraid to say that what Britain has today, this post-Margaret Thatcher society, does not work. It does not provide, protect, supply and help the British people. And I sometimes feel like me and you are echoing in the wind with how bad some parts of our society are. I mean, you do a dive, you dig down. People have no taste. People do not want to answer these questions. I know people don't like looking on Reddit pages, but I was having a nose through Reddit, and one young lady said, what do we do about the systemic collapse of society and birth rate? And this was a young woman asking the question, because it had a name called, was Janice, and some other letters behind it. and you could tell. Proud Feminist was one of the people. Some Proud Feminist something came on and says, "We don't care." Shut the entire conversation. Yeah, we don't care. But immediately, that's another woman's single opinion.
That's self-involvement.
But the problem there is there was no clapback.
There's no comeback.
There was no comeback from the Proud Feminists. The young lady who was made the post on Reddit, I think it was 2016 I was reading it from, because you can come on, you go down these rabbit holes of Reddit, and I do that. I'm a weird motherfucker who reads a lot. But it stunned me to the fact that there are sections of the internet and social media in the world that just does not care about you as a society, but only you as the individual. And that's terrifying. When did we become discombobulated blobs of flesh with no cultural, social or meaningful connection to one another outside of family units?
Slowly but surely over the course of time.
Yeah. Post-Margaret Thatcher.
Due to influences outside of the family unit.
Yeah, not just that, but I as a Muslim, I'd go even further and say it was the dismantlement of the nuclear family and the dissolvement of...
Yeah, that as well.
Many Muslims I've spoken to, and I think this is a good point to derail to before we change topic. Many Muslims will tell you, if you pose this question, do you prefer Britain of today, or would you, as a Muslim, a minority, want to live in a Christian Britain? And I tell you this now, the answer is a resounding Christian Britain.
Yeah, because they had some standards and structures.
Morals, behaviour, societal norms. People felt safe, secure, and they knew that this was a Christian country. Muslims today look round like many of the economically middle class, what's left of the middle class, and think, how the fuck am I staying here? Why am I still here? What am I building for? And if the Muslim population, one of the bedrock communities that holds up several pillars, industries of food, industries like medicine, pharmacies, fucking doctors. I've gone over before how much the Muslim community props up sections of the UK. If they're thinking about the door, the Hindus won't be far behind us. You lose the Muslims and the Hindus, you've lost a chunk of fucking professional labour. That's a black hole.
Half the Britons would bugger off and all.
But that's the point. Many of the middle class British already are. Many of them are already trying to get out because the burden of tax is too much on me and you. Yeah? We're from middle class families, even if we're not currently. You more than me. That's what
I was going to say. I'm borderline.
I've dipped under the belt. Let's be quite fair about that. But
I'm just about sticking my head in both the
I'm still middle class, I promise. Mumsy says so.
It's not good what Mumsy said. I got what I thought I could do.
I'm having a bit of a joke with how incredibly well spoken Chris's mother is. So she's proper middle class. Your mother. She might be pleased to hear that if she ever sees this podcast.
It's a possibility.
Is that before or after there are several explanatories with my name attached to it?
Yet to be found out.
Yet to be found out. Very, very true. I mean, in this aspect, I genuinely find that the British society is disintegrating, and I think more people need to be worried about this. More people need to actually start doing something about it. And us talking on this podcast is part of the reason why I started the podcast, is because intrinsically we care about our country.
Yeah, we're trying to...
we want our people to fucking fix these problems.
We're trying to make the issue aware so that we can actually start going down the road of fixing it.
Oh, absolutely.
In a positive way, mind, because I know in fact some people think you're taking the negative route. The negative route is never a good route. Yeah, go positive route that benefits all.
Was that more the you giving a cold warning to Sean?
That's more of a positive. Keep it positive. I'm not having none of this mischief. Thank you very much. That's so middle class.
You sounded so David Cameron there. That was a very David Cameron kind of response.
Stereotypical British response there.
No mischief. Yes.
No
Positive responses. Moving on. Post office scandal.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Fucking nightmare. Absolute nightmare. It's getting to the point now where it's at the drama level of the Grenfell. The Grenfell Towers. Like, where they've just dragged on and on and on. And government is doing next to nothing about it.
Well, they should have just nipped it in the butt and gone, sorry, we'll fix it. Done.
That government and committees don't operate like that. They just
need to.
I know they need. To be fair, I think, and this is going against your previous point about no mischief. I think Britain needs a real tyrant. I think we could do with a decent tyrant.
I'm sorry, but this I'm a Simpsons fan, so this just brings me back to a Simpson episode of Bloody Harry, and I'm just like, I see beheading coming back in a very big way. I don't know why, but when you said that, I just imaged beheading. We have known for it in the past, and I just have a feeling it's just going to pop up.
Hangings was the biggest execution in Britain. None of this electric chair or anything like that. The last hanging was before me and you were born, 1973. They let him have it. I don't remember the film. I don't know if it was Let Him Have It, Chris, or something. Or that's a quote. That's not actually about you. But
yeah.
I think the gentleman was mentally disturbed, and he turned around and shot a copper, murdering him, and he was the last person to be executed. Hanged in 1973, I think it was. It might have been earlier, it might be slightly later, but it was in the 70s. It was before me and you, and he was the last person hanged in the United Kingdom. But no, hanging's far. Beheading's a French thing. The guillotine. Very efficient way of killing people. Very quick. You know, with a headman's axe, you sometimes 2, 3, 4 times you'd have to swing at it if they had a thick neck like me. Guillotine, smooth. You're dead.
That's because it used the weight of the blade plus gravity.
Yeah. The guillotine was probably one of the greatest murder devices. It was so clean and efficient they would have 2 or 3 executions an hour. Yeah. That's how fast the French got rid of their nobility.
Damn.
Yeah, got to admire the frogs for that. They solved their fucking French problem. They've solved their government problem, their previous monarchical system very quickly.
Be careful in what you say there.
I'm just mentioning history.
Yeah, it's history. That does not mean it needs to be repeated.
Yeah, post office. I believe you wanted to say something about it.
Yeah, in fact, obviously, due to all this scandal and whatnot, the fact that a post office is, obviously, I know it's been closed due to refurbishment, but the fact there's no sensible local alternative for the people to have the service still available to them. I believe it's in Malmesbury. If I pronounce that wrong, I do apologise. My pronunciation is crap. And literally, we're saying the nearest place for them to go to actually do their obviously postal requirements is 8 kilometres, which is roughly 4.5 miles.
About 5 miles.
Yeah, 4.5 miles. Yeah.
Which absolutely damages the elderly.
It does
because the elderly use the post office for much of their services.
From what I can gather, it's what's called on the one place is version on town/village, so it's not exactly a very big place. So naturally, the elderly are going to be going into that shop because they're going to probably walk to it or catch a local bus, which requires extra travel expenditure.
It's nightmare. Again, the post office scandal and everything that's going on around the post office is an absolute fucking nightmare. The fact that the British government had sold the post office services to a foreign company, you know,
selling it, privatising it is not ideal anyway. But doing it to a foreign company which doesn't understand.
They're not even a British company.
It doesn't understand the requirements of how.
It's not even a Western country. It's not even a Western country.
Doesn't understand the requirements of how we use it is even worse. I would sort of semi-understand it if they sold it to a British company, because then they would understand the needs and requirements
of the British society.
But
this is a Japanese. I think it's Japanese or Chinese company that bought it. It was an Asian company, as far as I know, that bought this. How the fuck does people who live 2,000 miles away, any direction, know how we live?
I thought they were meant to be rather organised and skilled.
Are they now?
Yeah.
Are they?
And they're supposedly according to reputation. Yeah.
I fundamentally find the way that Britain is becoming the great sell-off. We only just had 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭's announcement a couple of days ago, or was it today, about some parts of the NHS being privatised.
Why?
He actually said that live on camera.
Why?
A fucking Labour Prime Minister.
Fuck, are you privatising it? Stop going the American route.
Of course, it's in this inexorable way forward that the British...
It's them trying to pawn off costs onto somebody else.
Yeah, they're pushing the last piece of British national-owned assets out the door to corporations.
Absolutely.
We as a country own next to nothing these days. And it's because continual generations of these disgusting politicians have been selling our assets.
Right, I'm speaking to the British billionaires here. Sort your shit out and make us British again. Because you're the only ones with fucking power to do it.
Make us British again. No, he went with the Trump. You are going to cause all kinds of havoc here, Chris. Damn.
I don't mean in the extreme sense, mind. It's the case of restoring actual British heritage to its proper form. NHS-wise. It's very specifically.
Elon Musk and the UK Reform Party. I assume you've seen some of the bits and pieces?
Why the fuck are you dabbling in our shit? You're not even fucking British. Fuck off.
Damn! Man said it live, Elon Musk, on behalf of the...
I can understand you're a successful businessman and everything, but that's based on the economy you've come from and you understand your economy.
Yeah.
This is the British economy. Are you going to serve our needs?
No, he's not. No, he's
I very much doubt it.
He's a megalomaniac. He had this love relationship with Elon, with that tweed-wearing twit, who I don't like, Nigel Farage. And I'm a very, very outspoken proponent, as in someone who does not like Nigel Farage at all. But the motherfucker stood on business, and I will give Nigel Farage his due here. He turned around because Elon Musk was talking about Tommy Robinson. You know, that fucking convict. Yeah. That Nazi convict. Was all about free Tommy, and Tommy Robinson's gone to prison for multiple reasons, for fraud, for mistreating the court. The man's in prison for being a criminal.
On all scales.
On all scales.
Not just one thing, on all scales.
On all scales. I mean, he's a thug, and yet Elon Musk is wading in to try and support Tommy Robinson and telling Nigel Farage to do so. And Nigel Farage, quite rightly, he's a closet nationalist. But he stays in that closet area of being a nationalist because he doesn't want to come out and be a full-scale nationalist, knowing that Britain will never tolerate it. We are not a racist country. No. On the basis, most Britons are very happy and comfortable around migrants and other people. We do not have a particular problem with it. And that's why Nigel Farage, and I mean, I think it was a cynical point, because again, I don't like Farage, I never will. I think he's a person who's caused us too many problems and never resolved any of them. And I stand by that. He caused Brexit. He caused several economical collapses. He is a man who causes issues and makes noise, but never gives a resolution to the problems.
He stirs the pot instead of...
Stirs the pot and runs away. He doesn't just stir and stay there, he stirs the pot and runs away.
Coward.
But, give him his due, he completely disagreed with Elon Musk, and that's where they've had now a split. Because Elon Musk has turned around and said, I don't think Nigel Farage is right for the UK.
What does that remind me of? A spoilt child not getting his way.
Yeah, Elon Musk is a billionaire child. He is a billionaire 12-year-old who just runs his mouth all the fucking time.
And gets away with it because he's got fucking money.
Because he's got money, and he's apparently really close with Trump. We don't give a shit. We genuinely do not care what Trump thinks of us. I think that's a fair point of view. Britain is 2,000 miles away from, or is it 1,600 miles from the closest piece of America's soil. Nowhere near. And then comes into the point when Trump and Musk were trolling Canada with saying that they should be the 51st state of America. I mean, that comes into Justin Trudeau. I don't know if you know, the Canadian Prime Minister just recently resigned. And he's fucking useless. Like, the polls have him and his Liberty Party being wiped out because he's in charge of it. He has risen their taxes so far that Canadians are leaving the country in droves. He's driving people
Foresight, people. Example of foresight.
Lower the taxes on us, neutralise the taxes so they can't keep dodging them in the corporations, set them at 30% for those who make over $1 million, 21% for those of us who make under $1 million. You will generate a decent amount of money. I keep fucking talking about it because it will fix Britain. If we fix the tax system, we will fix the country. Because it's just enough of a pinch in the corporate man's pocket for him to go, it'd cost me more to move. 31%.
You need to just get that.
Get that pinch.
Just get that number just right. Just in case, hang on, if I move it'll cost me more, but if I pay the tax, I can still stay here, still make profit, and it then also helps the country that I'm making business in, because then they can then buy more of my shit.
Exactly. But, you know, businesses...
And that's a long-term game to sustainable business.
Unfortunately, no company in the UK, no company in the world gives a shit about long-term interests of any country. Not America, not us. The American companies do not care about America, and the UK companies do not care about the UK in general. They don't. They don't give a shit about us. They only care about their bottom line. And that's where we need to start seriously thinking about changing British social culture in general. Let's come to the juicy part. The British people, the British ethno-white British people disappearing by 2125. What did I mean by that? Well, it was very, very specific. I have seen and read and leaned about the geopolitics, specifically about the British birth rate. Not just white Britons, all Britons across the entire United Kingdom.
Birth rate in Britain across the board.
Across the board in 2023 was 591,000 babies born. The whole lot. We're not even talking white people, we're not talking brown people, we're talking the whole lot of them. By 591,000. The death toll in the United Kingdom in the same year was 600 plus. We had close to 100,000 more deaths than births on this island. We do not have a migration problem.
We have the births.
We have a fucking birth problem. And the reason we have a birth problem is the burden of tax, as I keep telling you, is on me, you and Chris.
On everyone.
The country is propped up by us, the working people. And because I'm so passionate about this, if you, the neo-Nazis, and there are those of you out there who will probably come across this clip, if you want to see white Britain recover, you need to deal with your fucking tax system. Because white women and white men can't afford to have families. The burden of this entire industrial society should not be lying entirely on our shoulders, mine and Chris's.
It's becoming ever so clear in order to have a stable, suitable family in ideal situation, the entire household needs to make more. I would say almost 500,000 to live comfortably.
Yeah. 200 grand you could raise 2 kids.
Yeah.
The problem being is Britain needs more than 2 kids a year.
Yeah. And also, as I call like a standard family, which usually has 2, 3, 4, depends on how many you want.
For us, because I mean, our population is at 1.44. So for those people who can sometimes quite get confused about that, that means if we get 100 Britons alive right now who are in their 40s, there will only be 52 grandchildren for them and 32 great-grandchildren. And as I said, with no action from the migrants whatsoever, the white British population will be dead in 2125, 100 years today. Mark my fucking words.
You mean in case of the fact that there won't be any white Britons born after that day?
Yeah, no white Britons born after that day. There will be other white Britons still around, obviously. Because the reality is our declining birth rate is so bad, and again, I keep hammering home, and I know people might get fucking tired of me saying this, you fix the tax system, you will fix the people who want... This doesn't even need to be given towards people who don't want kids. There is a chunk of our population that doesn't, but there's a chunk of our population that does. And the ones who want to can't.
You need to cater for all.
Yeah, of course. Those of you who don't, you're going to get more money in your pocket. You're going to go on holiday a bit more. You're going to spruce up the house and buy those fucking jackets for your dogs, which many of these people do, which is mad in my opinion. I mean, I'm not talking about actual dog blankets for the winter. I'm not going on about that. I'm talking about actual dressing the animals up.
I can understand a coat for
for winter stuff.
For winter and everything,
no, I'm talking about dressing.
Oh, you mean actually dressing up around the house?
Yeah, fucking madness. But if you want to do that, cool. But more money in your pocket and the burden of tax, because the corporations don't pay. Every corporation has a means to avoid paying tax.
That needs to be eliminated.
Yeah, of course it does. And we need to keep the tax system in a legitimate way that corporations would consider it worthwhile. You can't charge anyone 65% of their fucking earnings. No one's going to sit down and take that.
That's probably the reason why most people haven't tried to earn more, because of the fact, obviously, if the tax is so high after you reach a certain bracket, what's the point in earning that much?
You need a constitutional change where, in constitutional, as in parliamentary act, that says everybody over a million, 31 to 35%. I don't know the mathematics. I'm not a mathematician, but there should be a set poll position for those who make generate more than £1 million of profit, and those who generate under £1 million of profit. And those two categories should be in the 20s and 30s, and there should be no tax bracket above that. No. None. And I guarantee you, Britain will generate more money because everybody and his dog is in a tax haven. Yeah,
because then people turn around and actually start looking at those careers that pay more money,
of course,
which will benefit
because they'll feel inspired.
Yeah, they'll feel inspired. Oh, hang on, I only get taxed this much, which means I'll have more money in my pocket, which means I can do more stuff that I want to do.
Exactly.
Not, hang on, if I earn this, 2/3 of my wages are gone to the tax man.
Exactly. It's madness. And that's why everybody has a tax agency. That's why everybody has a tax company. That's why everyone knows some way about how to get about tax, in the corporate world specifically. And if you become wealthy, you learn that stuff very quickly, because no one's going to want to pay. If me and Chris make, hypothetically, £100,000 from a podcast, I don't want to pay 65 fucking grand of our hard-earned money.
No, I will be using the system to my full advantage.
Of course. So there's one thing to pay a tax, and there's one thing to be robbed by the taxman. And almost everybody who doesn't have a tax system, or an ally in a tax company, or part of a tax scheme, or Ponzi, or whatever the fuck they call them, is fucked. They are bent over the table.
Not Ponzi, because that's illegal.
Right, fair enough. Like I said, I'm not great with the perception of ones. Glad you.
Basically, everyone needs a tax accountant to benefit in the current tax system.
The tax system is broken. It has to be reformed. But because of the lack of a tax system, we are in a terminal decline of birth. This is a real problem in the United Kingdom. We are losing population. We are having a slower growth than Norway.
Which is the cost of living is coming far too expensive.
Yeah, people can't afford to have kids.
No,
if you cannot afford to have kids, if you cannot afford to procreate, your country dies. There's no amount of migration that's going to solve that. It doesn't matter what these company people say, oh, we don't want migrants, but they bring them in anyway because they need to run an industrial nation. I'm telling you now, no amount of migrants are going to fix the burden of tax system, because the same tax system will trap the migrants. The migrants won't have kids. So if the migrants are permanently staying, they're not having kids.
Because you can't afford to.
You can't afford to. So if you're only here for a little bit and then leave after you've made some money, the migrant problem isn't the issue. Permanent residential migration is something that needs to be addressed, but it doesn't need to be addressed more than the inability of Britain to be able to reproduce. The British population are in a birth decline, a major birth decline. And it will kill white Britain. So for all the Nazis who saw the beginning of my podcast, and mine and Chris's podcast, and me say white Britain will be dead in 2125, that's not a euphemism. If these birth trends continue, that will happen.
And that's been backed up by the specialists as well.
Yeah, the data analysts have said it. Like I said, these aren't my words. You can search these on the censuses. You can go to the BBC. You can go to the governmental pages and find these. There were 100,000 more dead people in Britain than born people in 2023.
The fact that the birth rate has dropped below the death rate is concerning, let alone. But the fact that within
It'll be less than. I say 100 years because I want to put the impact of it like up in 21, 25, as in that's 100 years from today. Yeah. But I suspect I spoke to one friend online. He said it'll be sooner than that.
The fact that within half a century, white people in general within Britain will be basically dwindling out.
And it has nothing to do with the migrants. And this is what I need to stress about. The migrants are not the people who run the tax system. They're not the people who are making it burdensome for you, the British person, to have children. You do not have enough money in your pocket. The reason you do not have enough money in your pocket is you're carrying too much of the country's infrastructural costs whilst corporations are benefiting the most from it. And this conversation has to be fucking hammered home. Because if the British people understand that it's an up-down problem, not a left-right problem, we will then start to actually solve some of our issues. We need to move our tax incomable system. The British population needs to be increased. Now I've got a solution for this. Unlike Nigel Farage, I come with solutions. So, Chris, pull out your card. Pull out any card you've got, a library card, something like that in your wallet. Anything you've got, any kind of card, just to give me an example of a piece of plastic. I don't care what it is. And certainly don't give me your actual...
No, I'm not giving you my fucking bank card. No. Or otherwise,
there we go. Right, so... let's call this piece of plastic a birther card. So we fix our tax system. We entirely fix the tax system, as I've suggested. You have a windfall of income. Now, there's 100 different problems, but one of the things you want to fix is your birth rate. So you give every every 21 to 30-year-old woman who wants to be on a programme, 500,000 of them, let's say 500,000, we call them birthers. They get a piece of plastic. For their third child, they take off 18 grand of tax every year. For 18 years, for the third child's life, until they're an adult. For the fourth child, you add another 10 grand. If you did that to 500,000 Britons, you would equalise the British population.
And rather quickly as well.
And rather quickly. And if you wanted to... And the cost wouldn't even dent us that much. No. It wouldn't be more than a few billion.
I have a feeling there'd be more than 500,000 that would be...
Oh yeah, of course. For that. But realistically, you want it in the height of female reproductivity, but in the adult sphere, that it would be acceptable to the British mindset. So you couldn't... I mean, biologically, you'd say 17 plus. No Briton is going to say that.
We've gone past the time of the younger the better. It's now a case of more suitable.
Yeah, mentally capable of raising children. So 21 to 30 would be the bracket that you would aim for.
Fully matured.
Fully matured.
Fully matured.
Exactly. And your piece of plastic would then allow a woman to go, I'm not paying tax on my dinner. I'm not paying tax. And that would solve a lot of our birth rate problems. And the regulation that you would put around it, the whole idea around it would be that the government would say you have to be born in Britain. So that avoids any kind of racism. So you just need a British passport and a British birth certificate. And the first 500,000 women who apply get the card. You have a fourth child. The fourth child means that you now have 28 grand's worth of tax deductibles. So your shopping, your car, anything that's taxed, you don't pay any of that tax up to £28,000. That is how you resolve the birth differentiation. Like I said, I don't just come with the problems we have. I genuinely do have a solution, and no matter how radical it is. And how do you pay for it? You reform your tax system.
Even if there was to turn around and half the amount off on tax that you suggested, there'll still be a shitload that apply.
I think the 28 grand would allow women to be very comfortable at being able to solve many of the household problems. We would see an uptick in British population. A massive uptick in British population. And I think that's necessary. I think that's why I said 18 grand for the third child. So you have to have 2 kids beforehand. So you're capable and you're stable and you know how to look after a family. Then you come to the third child.
Yeah, you got the base grind already done.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You know how to raise these kids. You come to the third child, you come to the fourth child. And you only need 500,000 women to do that. 500,000 women having 3 children each would massively increase the population. And it wouldn't cost us a vast amount of money, Chris.
But what criteria would you have to enforce to do it? Because as much as I love that idea, what about the single mums that go along and then have 4 different kids with 4 different fathers?
Then you could, if you're looking for a cultural point of view, you must say that you can add a stipulation that a stable relationship. You don't even need to say a male and father, a mother and father, a stable partner. You and your partner can apply for the card. And therefore your stable household. Because we know raising children takes more than 2 people.
More
more than 2.
Yeah, more than 2. And grandparents as well.
Yeah. So sociologists have said the greatest strength that a pregnant woman has is her mother, her husband's mother, the father-in-laws, her father, and her husband. It's a family unit that raises children. We were never designed as a race for you to be a single parent. Hypothetically, you got a girl pregnant, she died for whatever reason, you're a single parent. That's a fucking disaster. You need to get married again, from my point of view to you. Because no child should be rolled into it, because you've got to do everything. You've got to run the money, you've got to look after the house. Single parenthood is a disaster. No part of human society was designed to say, it's a unit thing. Grandparents are involved, siblings are involved. Your sister needs a day off, so the wife needs a day off, her sister comes in and looks after the kids, so she can sit on the sofa and read a book or watch a movie or discuss her brain from children, sitting down with a coffee with her sister. A family unit is the unit you use to raise young. You cannot do that in a society that has dismantled the family unit. And that is a critical point of view. So this is why I say 18,000.
Perfect example of wolf pack.
Yeah. The strongest people look after the weakest people.
Wolf packs are known to be successful because of the fact they work as a unit, not as a single individual.
Exactly. And British society has been moving away from unit families and unit communities before we were born.
Yeah.
And it has destroyed us as a society. We are disintegrating. And its proof in the pudding is the fact that our population is in terminal decline now. And I say it like that. We are in terminal decline. The British population is collapsing from terminal decline because the burden of society is too much. This is why a single mother, I probably agree with you, single motherhood shouldn't be applying for these cards. No, well said, Chris. Because again, even with the tax break, a single mother would struggle to raise 2 children, let alone 3.
In order to have, obviously, the birthing rate go up, you need the stable household.
Yeah.
Obviously, not necessarily man and woman, obviously partner.
Yeah, I say partner because many of the most stable relationships I've seen recently are gay women. Seriously, in Gloucestershire, I've seen a lot of actual really stable lesbian women and lesbian society where things are going really well. So this is not the stability factor is important. We need 2 parent households with supporting cousins, uncles, sisters, family members around you, so that you can help raise the children.
And the society as well around them.
And the society around them as well. I mean, in that regard, I think that's a really critical point.
That's where you would then, if that system was to go in place, you would then try and make it so that the people that are all on that system are all within
you'd want to cluster them.
Within a certain area of each other, so they can then rely on each other.
As an interval situation, yes, you'd want to use that as an interval, because we are now at a point where we need massive government support from a reformed tax system that would allow the British people to lift our various tribal rooted people of all colours and creeds. I would say that the mother and the father only require British birth certificate and passport. That's it. You're born on this island, you're British. That's the way I see it. Yeah, I'm not that complicated about that. And I don't care about your sexuality. If there's 2 parents in the household, the kids are getting the attention and the support that they need. That's bare minimum, I think. Two parents is bare minimum. Because as I was watching that psychological documentary, I can't remember the name of it. I will link it if people ask. There is a communications that this doctor was talking about, that it required grandparents, parents, cousins, sisters. She was very in depth with it, and she said, a success. Do you know what the quote I remember is? Do you know how we measure a successful raising of a child?
No.
It's whether the mother has a supporting partner or not. Because the energy that comes from the supporting partner to the mother then allows the mother to dedicate her energy to the children. If the mother doesn't have the supporting energy, the energy is withdrawn and the children emotionally starve.
So as I call it, they need the backup in order to focus on...
The backup focuses on the mum,
yeah.
The mum focuses on the children. The mum still needs physical, mental and emotional support. And I think that's a really critical... We don't have that in Britain anymore.
No, because they've been
even the Muslim community is struggling with that nowadays because we're having a breakdown of marriages because the burden of finances is a problem. The divorce rate in the UK amongst us Muslims is creeping up, and we are one of the most religious, communally based parts of the UK. I can fairly say that. We, the Hindus and the Jews, are pretty much the last bastions of British communalism. There isn't much else.
Well, I know someone that we know that would highly disagree with that.
There aren't enough of them.
No, there ain't.
That's the fundamental bit. They've dropped, if we're talking about the British Christian community, they've dropped from 74% down to 44% of the wider British population. A 30% decrease in 1 decade.
1 decade,
2015 to 2025, there is a 30% decline in Christian belief across the board of the United Kingdom.
That's crazy.
71%, I think it was, and it dropped down to 40. And they think it'll drop.
Since we used to be a heavy Christian-based
country.
We
were massively Christian. Why do you think many of the... It's crazy. People think that we come to Britain because it's successful. Fuck no. Muslims come to Britain because it's a Christian country and we thought it was had Christian values which are similar to us Muslims. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the similarity is why Muslims migrate here. But, the nationalists want to say, oh, they want to steal my jobs. No, they don't want your fucking job, you bricklaying cunt. No one wants to be a bricklayer.
Some do, but not very many.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? No Muslim migrates here to become a bricklayer. We're not stealing your job, James from Tesco's. Yeah? The fuck you smoking, mate? No one wants to work in the fucking Tesco aisles, driving trolleys. Fucking trolley boys getting angry about migrants. It does my nothing because they're not. Most migrants are highly educated people. People who migrate with their families. Yeah, exactly. Doctors, nurses. We'd be fucking dead as a nation without our medical professionals from ethnic minorities. And that includes the incredible British, Romanian and Polish community who have filled a lot of the white gap. You'd be fucking surprised how many children are being born from the population of British Poles, Ukrainians. The Eastern Europeans are propping this island's fucking white population up right now. It's a madness.
They are good nurses and everything as well.
And good nurses, good medical personnel, incredibly kind, caring people. The Eastern European ethnic minority of the UK are enormously important towards the survival of this nation, and it narks me considerably at the ethno-nationalists. I want to keep Britain English and Welsh and Scottish. Motherfucker, then start talking about these problems. Step up and talk about these problems. You want to solve the problems? Come have an argument with me. Any day of the week.
Hang on, when since this being a pure British nation actually been successful?
We've never been it.
No, this is the point I'm making.
We've been a migrant nation for 2,000 years. But they don't want to be told that.
This is what the point I'm making. It has never been a purely British society because of the fact we've had...
even the Celts before the Romans were marrying the proto-Portuguese and trading between them during the Bronze Age. And that's that's pre-Roman period. Yeah. We now know that the early Celts, my theoretical ancestors, not my exact ancestors, because they're even older than the Irish. The Irish are a group of tribals that emerged from Brittany and migrated there later. I think after the Romans had left, or during the period of the Romans leaving, Ireland had its own small cultural migrations from the rest of Europe's tribal groups. But sufficient to say that the ancient Celts, the Icenians, the Picts, all of those lot, they weren't pure bloody Picts. They didn't give a shit. They picked up wives and husbands from wherever they were trading. They were a Bronze Age trading society.
I was going to say, as far as I'm aware, we've never been pure blooded.
No, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as the British pure blood. It's a myth. It's a myth held by Victorianism. Victorian ideology, and people really don't like having that conversation. Because if you were to trace the genetical legacies of most British, real old English families, they're German, they're Greek, they're Portuguese. Because of your stockiness and facing that lot, there's probably more German in you than there is of the others.
Would not surprise me.
I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, you know what I'm saying? And there's probably some French in you because your nose is a little bit smaller than the Germans. For me, I know, because one of my sisters is a ginger. Do you know what I'm saying? I know there's Scandinavian in our family. We've got gingers in our blood. Do you know what I'm saying? So that proves there's Irish, and we're Irish or Celtic of nature, because every couple of generations a fucking ginger pops out. Which means that's from our Viking ancestors. Because the Vikings did rule Ireland. People, again, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
These countries, these islands have never, ever, ever been a pure race or a pure tribe. There has always been some form of low-level migration on these islands for as long as people have been on them, going back 5,000 years, easily 5,000 years. I think the earliest Celtic ruins we have are about 4.5 or 5,000 years old, something like that. And no one is a pureblood. This is a migrant nation, and people need to get that through their head. But if they want to fix the declining birth rate, start dealing with your tax system. Start benefiting your
start making it so people can raise a family.
Financially raise a fucking family.
Raise a family without too many money issues. Because obviously money issues are going to prop up every now and again anyway. But not ones that are going to cripple it and destroy it.
Yes. And that's the fear of why so many young people do not have families. They cannot, they're barely able to survive today.
Well, seeing as most people are saying now it costs over $500,000 to raise a child.
Mad! Fucking mad!
That's obviously from birth until they
20s. When you and even then you're going to need you the father are going to still have to help them.
Yeah, as called through the natural development age, which is into the 20s, $500,000.
I would, you see. If I was wealthy enough, I'd be putting money away before the child's even born. If I had the money to put away for my children, I would. It would be away. So that when their college comes around, because university is getting more expensive every year.
If they decide to go that route.
Yeah, if they, or we get them a flat.
Yeah.
We put away money for them. But Britons can't even put away money for kids at this point.
I would actually, if I still have kids, I'd encourage them to go into apprenticeships.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. You turn the light on, old boy.
Yeah. That'll take about 3 years to light up.
Hey, Sylvia, our image has kind of stepped up a bit. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cast, but we have got some questions that have been asked. One by Priest, one of our has made a comment. Chris has got a disagreement. I happen to agree with Chris. I think we should change the British gun laws. I think British society, let me finish, sensible British people who can pass mental health checks, unlike the Americans, so I'm already buggered, should be a licence to be able to carry firearms.
No.
Why?
Why? You said America. America is a prime example. What happens when people that think they require a gun get hold of a gun. Yeah. The only way I think gun laws should change is the fact that obviously police enforcement of guns, like the ability to have access to more guns, should increase, yes, but that's only due to gangs.
So you think the coppers should have more guns?
The coppers should have more guns to control the ones that are more likely to cause harm.
The problem I have with this argument is that, as I said,
they must go through rigorous testing mentally
why is a
in order to
policeman
do that.
More qualified to have a firearm than me?
Because they've been trained.
Don't talk about my past.
Because they've been trained in the art of law. Art of law. How to enforce the law and ideally to de-escalate any situation. Because I know there's very good controversy on that. Yeah, de-escalate situations where the gun will never be required to be drawn.
You see, I disagree that the police are any more qualified than me and you.
But they've had the training and the education.
No amount of training changes
an armed. But then
look, let's take Sweden. Okay, let's take Sweden as an example. Everyone in Sweden is allowed to own a gun. Most of Sweden does. Why are there no school shootings in Sweden? Because their society has raised their children and people better.
There's the issue.
You see? America is a bad example. Sweden is an excellent example of gun.
It's the opposite end of the scale.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry to say, but at the moment, if gun laws change where people are allowed to have guns, we would sway towards the American side because we're too farly influenced by the Americans.
Maybe. Anyway, Rob, you asked a question. A very, very good one, I might add. Go on, Chris, read it out.
UK justice system, your thoughts on it? That's an interesting one.
I think the CPS and the courts is broken. I think the court system is...
I think it's broken because it's overloaded.
Yeah, it's overloaded because we don't have enough prisons, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough support systems, and it comes back to the motherfucking favourite word of Sean, taxes. Fix the fucking taxes, you will fix the fucking country. Unquestionably.
You're very, very pro on that.
Because I believe it will resolve a lot of our problems.
I believe it would as well, but I must be realistic and think, is there a solution that we can turn around and use...
Not without injection of money.
With our current tax system in order to actually do
because the current...
Not necessarily to improve the infrastructure, but for ourselves.
No, because the system is so heavily burdened on the British people that it is buckling. We are not at a point where, we need to fix things. We're at the point where the fucking house is on fire, Chris, and we need to stop the retard Keir Starmer chucking fucking goddamn petrol on it. Because that's the house is Britain, and Keir Starmer is running around with a petrol can. Because he can't fix the problems. He's just making a bigger fucking mess.
Anyone that's an artist, I would really love to see an illustration of that. I really would. your own take on what Lockwood just said.
Petrol, house called Britain, Keir Starmer. He's not fixing the problem. He's genuinely not fixing the problem. He has never fixed a damn thing in our country. And he is a terrible Prime Minister. He gave up all of our country's promises he made for an economy he couldn't fix.
Didn't he go back on his manifesto as well?
As I said, he betrayed his manifesto to say he needed to fix the economy.
Then why is he still in power?
Because that's the parliamentary system we live by. What was the second part of his question that Rob asked?
It was just basically thought that the other one was based on the video.
Oh yeah. The videoing. We're going to fix the videoing. It was a bad video, I know. But the CPC problem is there is not enough support funding. We have to fix our economic, financial and socio-political situation. And that all comes back to reform the fucking tax system. You can start fixing the country. Unless you're prepared to tackle the demon, which is the corporate world, taking us, me, you and Chris for a cunt, and they are, you're never going to solve the country's problems.
You're never going to tackle that demon.
Yeah, no, you can.
It's grown too big.
You can. You just need a ruthless motherfucker in Parliament. You need someone...
Anyone up for the game? Apart from him? Preferably one with a bit more intelligence and self-control over anger management issues, yeah.
What are you saying, Chris? I'm a pallet. No, I better stop lying.
No, I'm going to say, drop that accusation right now.
I'm a good Muslim. No, we all know that's not going to wash. The general public should know me, but anyone who knows me knows that's not going to wash.
As much as I would like to say I'll take up thing, I'll lose my patience so fucking fast, I'll be worse than him.
I genuinely think that we need somebody incredibly competent to take control of our Parliament and actually solve the problem and save the British people from the monster that is corporate tax system, the corporatisation on selling out of absolutely everything of our country, which has just dissolved Britain further and further every single year until there is nothing left of the society we grew up in and we fell in love with. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the questions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from me, Sean, and from Chris as always. Aloha or aloha or however the fuck he says goodbye.
And please, any topics you like to discuss,
please be open.
Or you just want our opinion on certain things that concern you.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's polite or that lot, we don't. I don't abide by trolls. I just ignore them. As I've regularly said, I don't care what people think of us as in the trolls points, but I genuinely, passionately do believe this country needs to be lifted up and socio-politically pushed forward. And
hence the reason why
we're doing this podcast.
Nice, sensible conversations need to be had. I would say nice, but sometimes it won't be nice.
They're not.
Sensible conversations need to be had to address topics.
Yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer just needs to be fired. I mean, the Labour Party needs to sack him. He needs to go this year.
The fact that he went back on everything he said just immediately says he needs to be booted.
Yeah, I mean, he betrayed his manifesto for the economy. If he had got the economy done, cool. You know what I'm saying? I was okay, you've got the economy working, money's coming into the country, cool. He hasn't.
He's done nothing. He's failed on everything.
He's failed on everything and his promises. He has to go. And that is where we fundamentally end our...
Otherwise he's going to be the next head of lettuce.
No, he's lasted longer than her. He's lasted longer than her.
Yeah, but for how much longer?